ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Secret Base figure preview video. Now before we begin, I want to say a huge thank you to Ryan Kirkwood for going out in person and snapping these absolutely gorgeous high-res pics. Show Ryan some love down in the comments below, because without Ryan, this series literally wouldn't be possible. Now, if you would like to pre-order either Cap or the Winter Soldier, they are both up right now with toyswonderland.com. Link for that is, of course, in the description below. And they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. But here we have Cap. I thought it was going to be at least a week or two more until Hot Toys eventually showed him, but they weren't waiting. Here we have him, and honestly, I am super impressed right off the bat. There's no secret, Hot Toys poured a lot of love and attention to detail into the engineering of this piece, and we'll talk about that when we get to the wings and the other various components. Now you might be thinking, Justin, what on earth did you think of the show? Personally, I loved it. I love Sam as the new Captain America. The suit is absolutely gorgeous and very toyetic. It translates very well into a figure, and I think Hot Toys captured the details of the suit marvelously. Now you can see he does come with an array of hands, and they are all nicely painted. The interesting thing here is they've painted the fingernails. I don't think I've ever seen Hot Toys do that before, but they have done it here. You can also see these sections. You might be thinking, what on earth are they? These are actually the Cap cover pieces that go on his jetpack slash wing pack thing when you don't have the wings attached. Now, people are complaining that he doesn't come with a bunch of accessories, but in my opinion, the engineering on the wings and the shield is more than enough for me, but I totally get it if it's not enough for you. He does, of course, come with the hexagonal display base, showing once again that you can support a figure mid-flight on a smaller base. So I'm glad this guy comes with a smaller footprint base. Now, speaking of footprints, here we have the boots, a split-cut boot design, which is definitely appreciated. There is a lot of detail on this suit. It's designed, of course, by the Wakandans, so you'd expect it to be technically different to what we've seen from all of Falcon slash now Cap's other suits. There's a lot of tech detail on it, there are a lot of different materials, and it looks awesome. I love the metallic paint on the red and the silver sections on the shins. I really do love all of the little intricacies on the suit itself, including the buckles and straps on the boots there. And yes, that split-cut boot design will come in very handy for the mid-flight poses. It also looks like that little ankle cover piece can be moved forwards perhaps, but only time will tell when this guy eventually comes out. We'll have to put him through his paces in terms of his posability. Now, just before we get to the pants, I do want to talk about the material choices as a whole first, before we focus on the various different sections. So, you are seeing a couple of different styles of material. For certain sections of the suit, it is going to be that harder, rubberized style plastic like we've gotten with all of the other Captain America figures. You can see in this picture right here, the knee pads look to be that same type of material that we've gotten on the various pads on our previous Cap figures. It just makes sense. They've used it before, they're going to use it again here. I do hope they stay attached to the suit though. We have had numerous times where these pads have fallen off the suits and they've deteriorated. It does look like if you just peek under one of those pads, it looks like it's connected to the body itself. So it looks potentially like there is a hole in the suit. That picture right there, you can see a tiny gap underneath the bottom of that knee pad. Now we may as well talk about the main fabric of the outfit, because it is just that, fabric. And it looks to be a relatively stretchy style fabric as well. Praise the figure gods for fabric. I am so glad that Hot Toys decided to use a proper cloth style material like we've gotten with Age of Ultron Cap, Civil War Cap, and various other Captain America figures, rather than that sort of weirdly textured vinyl rubber material that we've seen from Infinity War onwards. I love this material choice. We can have his legs bent for long periods of time, not having to worry about creases or damage to the suit, and it looks identical to what we saw on screen. It not only is super faithful to the screen-used suit, but it also allows us to go crazy with our posing. Now, when we do get to the upper torso, you'll see that there are a couple of different materials up there. They didn't use fabric for the entire thing. It looks like, for the abs section, we do have this interestingly padded red fabric, and then the white sections appear to be a rubbery vinyl overlay. We have seen this method used before, and I think it is going to work okay, because you can see a cut between the lower torso and the upper torso. If those two are separate entities, meaning you can turn one independently of the other, this is going to be a home run. You'll be able to go crazy with all of your Cap/Falcon style flight poses. It's going to be fantastic, and I have a feeling that's exactly what they've done here. Also, the color scheme, it's super vibrant. The white is a crisp, stark white, and the red is nice and deep. I love the color scheme here. Up on the chest area itself, it looks to be a rubber overlay. It's to be expected. To get that mass and bulk, you do need to do something like that. The same thing can be said for the shoulder pads. That's the one thing that I'm not 100% sold on with the actual suit design for the show. It's the size of the shoulder pads. I know Sam Wilson isn't anywhere near as big as Steve Rogers. After all, he isn't a super soldier. He wasn't hit by a bunch of Vita rays that, made Steve absolutely enormous. So it makes sense. He's a regular dude. Well, a little bit more than a regular dude. He is a little bit buffer. But he has these big honkin' shoulder pads. I thought it looked a little bit peculiar in the show. It looks better in figure format, but honestly, I still think it looks a little bit goofy. Granted, you can pose those issues away. It's not a huge deal by any means. All of the white sections on the suit appear to be that rubbery overlay, so when you see the inner part of the elbows, which has me a little bit worried, that also looks like a rubberized plastic. Now, before anyone heads down to the comments and say, for this price we should have a material that doesn't crease and doesn't damage over time, don't forget that no matter what price you're paying for anything, Hot Toys can't invent an entirely new style of material that can look and feel the exact same as what this does, if you know what I mean. They've made their choices to satisfy realism over everything else. That is the number one prime directive for Hot Toys. It always will be, it always has been, and that's why they choose the materials that they choose. I like to talk about the fabrics and how I would appreciate if they did that more often, but at the end of the day, they've chosen what they've chosen, and I personally don't mind that. If this was their vision for a Captain America figure based off the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we have to go with that. This is their product. This is what they want to put out. I know that not everyone is going to agree with me on that, but we buy Hot Toys for the realism. These figures are made for the realism, so I might complain, but at the end of the day, I still love the look of this release. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk about the shield. So yes, it is that new design that we did see Steve give to Sam at the end of Endgame with those little etchings. There have been various guesses and rumors as to where Steve got this new shield. I reckon it was just a newly refurbished version of his Wakandan shield that maybe the Wakandans gave him. Who knows? Either way, it's a newer version of the Cap shield with those little notches. It looks fantastic. The only thing that I'm questioning though is the blue. Was it so vibrant and also not metallic? I think it was a little bit more metallic and darker than that, but anyway, I could be wrong. Now we're about to take a look at the pièce de résistance on this figure, and that's the head sculpt. This thing looks absolutely insane. Lifelike isn't enough of a compliment for this head sculpt, because there it is. It looks truly spectacular. Let's talk about it from an engineering perspective first. So you'd think that there'd be pretty much no movement in the head. Not the case. It looks like there is a split underneath the jaw, so it's a separate head to the neck. That means we'll have a ball joint at the head and also at the base of the neck, so we should be able to go crazy with our posing. That's something they didn't have to do. They could have just done a fixed neck, but they have sacrificed the realism just a little bit to give us slightly more articulation when Cap is in midair. So yes, I do appreciate that. and it still looks fantastic. You've got that seamless looking white piece that goes from his neck all the way up to his forehead there, and the goggles, which of course are translucent, and you can see Sam's eyes behind there. They have done an all-new head sculpt, it seems, for Sam. We have seen two previously, one for Civil War and one for Captain America, the Winter Soldier. They were both fantastic, but this takes the cake. I love the look of this head sculpt. It is Sam Wilson, aka Anthony Mackie, through and through. They've nailed it. The hair texture on his head and also on his mustache, goatee, beard thing looks amazing. It looks incredibly realistic. I'm super impressed with this sculpt, and if the final release version looks anything like this, I think us collectors are going to be incredibly happy. Now, you do get only one Red Wing, which is interesting because we see him using two at the end of the show. It's literally one of the things where I turned to Ms. Collection Steph and I said, hey, he has two now. I don't know why Hot Toys didn't give us two. Maybe they'll add another one in the box, because it is accurate to the show after all. But if they don't, I'm not going to complain too terribly much. It also has its own dynamic flight pole. We did see that with the Civil War version of Red Wing as well, and it looks relatively basic. I don't think there is any articulation this time. With the previous version, you could fold away the wings to store him in Sam's back area. Now, speaking of wings, let's talk about the wings on Cap here. There are multiple different joints. These are the most articulated wings that we have seen for a Falcon-style figure from Hot Toys. It's pretty darn impressive what these things can do. They move in a way that I didn't think would be possible. There are a bunch of joints here that you can almost recreate that scene where he brings the wings around, pops the shield on top, and protects himself from that crashing helicopter. You can't unfortunately pull it off 100%, but you can get darn near close, so I'm super impressed with how much these wings can move. There are at least 2 or 3 main hinges up the top, so you can fold the wings all the way around. And when we get to the end of the video, the very last shot showcases how Cap and the Winter Soldier are posed at Secret Base. I think I might be stealing that pose when they both eventually come out, because you have the wings pretty much nicely swooping and wrapping around the front. It looks incredibly dynamic, and Cap isn't really doing all that much. He's just floating there in the air, but it looks insanely awesome. Plus, look at the texture on the wings. It looks like some sort of vibranium weave. It looks awesome. There's a bunch of hex pattern in there. There's a bunch of washers, there's metallics, and also a little bit of pitting to make them look slightly more metallic. These wings look absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to get this Cap figure in hand. You should also be able to concertina them and fold them down so they can go a little bit flatter, which is something that I always wanted to be able to do with the previous Falcon figures. Finally, Hot Toys have given us an added level of articulation with the wings that I've always been hoping for. Here's a shot of it curling around the front, so I do believe these joints won't just be able to fold, but also pull out slightly to give you an even greater range. As you can see right here, it nicely wraps and curves around the front. They are segmented, but they do look very, very organic, so Hot Toys has nailed it with the wing design. There you can see one of the gaps for the various sections, because of course it has to be multiple different panels to be able to fold in the way it's doing here. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some die cast on those hinges. After all, these are relatively large wings, so to be able to sustain the weight and also the constant bending back and forth, I would hope they'd add a little bit of metal in those joints just to give them slightly more stability. But yeah, coming to the end of the video, I'm super impressed with Cap. I couldn't wait to see the Hot Toys version of this suit as soon as he stepped on screen in the final episode of the show. Oh man, when they did that tease in episode 5 and they showed that briefcase, I was like, don't you dare. And they did. They cut away and we didn't get to see the suit. It just built the hype more and more towards that last episode. and as soon as he stepped on screen, I was super impressed. It's very comic book accurate, it's super punchy and vibrant, and it looks fantastic here in figure format. Now, if you are looking to pre-order either Cap here or the Winter Soldier, they are up for pre-order right now with toyswonderland.com. The link for that is, of course, in the description down below, and you can take advantage of the 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you are down in the description, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.